Hey guys, I'm Justin, and this is your weekly short. Um, Obviously, this is how we're doing things from now on. So, with this YouTube channel, I want you to like, subscribe, comment, let us know what you think about the videos, and just communicate with each other. I know we're all tired of being locked away in our homes, but we're blessed to live in a time where we can communicate like this. So, glad you're here. And this week, we're going to be talking about just how we communicate with people and talking about how to tell the truth. We can all agree that nobody likes to be lied to. Wherever you go in the world, lying is looked down upon. But we're going to talk about good ways to tell the truth and bad ways to do it. You know, the truth has to come out of love. There has to be love behind it. There's a lot of people that will, as you can see on Facebook, in some of the comments, they'll interject truth in a really mean way, a rude way. It doesn't build people up. It doesn't come from love. It tears them down or attacks whatever. But when we tell the truth, especially to people we love and care about, we obviously want to do it the right way. I remember being a kid at Christmas, and my mom always did a wonderful job with Christmas gifts, and I usually got what I wanted. But one Christmas when I was about 8 years old, I really wanted the PlayStation. I can't remember if it was the first one or the second one. That's been a long time ago, but I didn't get it, and my mom obviously saw that I was upset and asked me what was wrong, and I told her the truth. Obviously, I couldn't hide it. Your mom's going to know you're upset, but I told her the truth, and it didn't really come out of love. It was more of a selfish, like I didn't get what I wanted, and my mom didn't seem too upset about it. Obviously, she probably preached to me that I could have not gotten anything for Christmas, and hopefully she did, but I just remember, telling her the truth, but it didn't come out of love, and was honestly very hurtful and disrespectful. So, it's good to be zealous about the truth. It's good to strive to tell people the truth in situations, but if you do it without love, it's not helpful. And a lot of people, whenever they're listening to what you have to say, if there's no love behind it, or you're not just aware of necessarily how you're saying it, will tune your message out completely. And that even goes with sharing the gospel with people. I've seen people do it in some ways that I was like, wow, no one's going to listen to that. Even though they're speaking the truth, it still comes out in a really rough, bad way. And in Ephesians chapter 4, verses 14 through 16, Paul writes this. He says, "We will no longer be little children tossed by the waves and blown around by every wind of teaching, by human cunning with cleverness and techniques of deceit. But speaking the truth in love, let us grow in every way into him who is the head, Christ. From him, the whole body, fitted and knit together by every supporting ligament, promotes the growth of the body for building up itself in love by the proper working of each individual part." And in this, Paul is talking about the church and how the church, should grow in unity. And in verse 13, he actually tells us that when we're in unity, it'll help us measure up to the full, complete standard of Jesus, which is really huge. And then once we measure up to that standard, we won't act like children anymore. And, it talks about we won't be tossed back and forth and, basically just buying into everything we hear and wavering. If you know anything about kids or have a younger brother or sister, you can almost make them believe anything if you're good enough. You can just say some outlandish things to kids and they'll believe it. And it says we won't be like that anymore. But other childish characteristics that we will no longer demonstrate will be turning from the truth. We'll know the truth, and we won't be gullible. And not only that, but we will hold the truth and we will speak it in love. And in love is the most important thing here. As you know, kids will say whatever. Kids will walk up to strangers, tell them they're ugly, that they stink, whatever. And they don't think anything about, just how they're hurting somebody. They're just telling the truth. And kids, they always say kids will tell you the truth. And, that's not how we're supposed to be. As Christians, it's important to speak the truth out of love. If we go up to somebody like a kid and just interject the truth in a hurtful way, that's not helping anybody. We gotta do it in love. And I remember the story of Job. Job went through just about everything you could go through. God allowed Job to be tempted, and Job had a couple friends that are in the story. And at first, you think, oh, these friends are coming to help Job out. He's in a bad place. But really, they don't help Job. And I'll go on to tell you a little bit about this. So, Job's friends come in. Obviously, everything's going wrong with Job. Job loses literally everything. And his friends are trying to fix Job's problems, but they're preaching to him. They're talking down to him. And a lot of them say things that are true, but where it's coming from, they're not telling him out of love. They're telling Job, God's punishing him, and they're doing this in a very self-righteous and just a condemning way. And one example is one of Job's friends says this is Eliphaz, and this is in Job chapter 5. He says, "Behold, blessed is the one whom God reproves. Therefore, despise not the discipline of the Almighty, for he wounds and he binds up. He shatters, but his hands heal." And this is a true statement. But it's not said out of love. His friend was hurting and completely devastating Job rather than trying to build him up. He was judging him, he was criticizing him, and he was preaching at him. And he has another friend, Zophar, that kind of does the same thing. And they're both just really, they're convinced that Job deserves this. Job has done something wrong. And in Job chapter 11, verse 7 and 8, Zophar says, "Can you find out the deep things of God? Can you find out the limit of the Almighty? It is higher than the heavens. What can you do? Deeper than Sheol. What can you know?" And again, he's saying true statements about God. The Bible tells us, we can't even think on the same level of God. God is far beyond our understanding. Obviously, nobody can know the things of God completely. It's just impossible. But the problem with the statement is his motives. And then Bildad kind of summarized that Job's children died, because Job loses his children, because they had sinned against God. Zophar is determined that Job is getting off easy for some sin that he committed, and that Job should be grateful. And in all this, God knows that Job isn't guilty, but his friends seem to think they are, and so they're spitting these true facts at him about God, but they're not coming out of love, and it's not really the case. Job didn't sin. It's a great story if you go on to read the rest of it. And in everything they said, even the truths about God's character, it came from a position of assumed guilt. They had judged Job for sins that he hadn't committed and assumed that he was living in opposition against God and that everything was happening for a reason. So they weren't loving when they said these things to Job. They were doing it to condemn him. So obviously, this angers God. Because he sees Job's friends and what they're really doing. And in chapter 42, verse 7 of Job, it says, "After the Lord had spoken these words to Job, the Lord said to Eliphaz, the Temanite," which was one of Job's friends, "My anger burns against you and your two friends. You have not spoken of me with what is right, as my servant Job has." So they spoke inaccurately about God's character, not because of the things they said about God were untrue, but because they attributed their own feelings and judgment about Job to him. And they presumed that they were right, speaking for God, because what they were saying were true things. But the reasons for saying them weren't true. The things they said about Job were untrue, and their motives were impure, and their approach was not very polite. If you look at Ephesians again, chapter 4, verse 29, it says this, "Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear." So we have to be careful when speaking things, whether it's truth in situations where we're trying to help people. Make sure it comes from the heart. Make sure you're doing it out of love. You got to check yourself before you dive in and try to help other people. Where's this coming from? You need to ask yourself questions like this. Will it be the truth and love? Will it build this person up? Is it appropriate? And will it minister grace to the situation? Everything else, even if it's truth, if it's delivered in any other way, is going to be corrupt speech if it's not backed in love. So just remember that, when you're talking to people, all of us want to help, but sometimes even with good intentions, we can do bad things. And then sometimes we want to tell the truth and we do it in a hurtful way. And sometimes we even know it. There have been times where I've interjected truth, and then, after I've done it, I thought, I didn't do that for the right reason, though. I just did that to prove a point, or, what have you. So just remember, be very cautious about how you tell the truth. The truth needs to be told in situations, but it's gotta be done out of love, and it's gotta come, from the heart, and you've really got to mean it. Don't just go around jumping in and trying to hit people with the truths and facts just to do it and to be boastful and to be like Job's friends. Let it come from the heart. So guys, I hope this was helpful. Just know that you're in our prayers. From the whole FBC student ministry team, we love you guys and hope to see you soon. Have a blessed day.
They made me feel like a prisoner. They made me feel set free. They made me feel like a criminal. Made me feel like a king. They lifted my heart to places I've never been. They dragged me down back to where I began. Words can build you up, words can break you down. Start a fire in your heart, put it out. Let my words be life, let my words be true. I don't wanna say a word unless it points the world back to you. You can heal the heartache, speak over the fear. God, your voice is the only thing that we need to hear. Words can build you up, words can break us down. Start a fire in our hearts, or put it out. Let my words be life, let my words be true. I don't wanna say a word unless it points the world back to you. Let the words I say be the sound of your silence. I don't wanna say a word unless it points the world back to you. Gonna speak your love, not just another noise. I wanna be your light. I wanna be your voice. Let my words be life. Let my words be true. I don't wanna say a word unless it points the world back to you. Out of words I say, be the sound of your voice. I don't wanna say a word unless it points the world back to you. I don't wanna say a word unless it points the world back to you.
So, if you guys caught and saw that phrase at the bottom of the screen anywhere throughout today's digital short, I want you to go on ahead and send that to one of us, one of your student ministry leaders. Let us know that you watched this so that we can put your name in the drawing for the fantastic prize that we will give away once we all are together. And I hope that we are all together really, really soon. So thank you so much for watching. Mwah. Bye.